Planes? Planes?
Oh, just to gather a search for 1/1s.
Somebody's over here trying to make Wilderness Reclamation not be too good and wants to rock and roll with, oh, you guessed it. Is that a Venerated Knight? 2-1 for 1. Ever heard of it? Oh, Jimbo. Oh, Jimbo. Now it's a Ginger Brood. Patrick, this is nuts and bolt magic if I've ever seen it.
Yeah, Loxodon next turn with the dog. That's just a lot of numbers on the table.
So what this is here from Jim, in my estimation, is basically going, all right, so nobody has sweepers, and so I'm going to try to kill you as fast as possible because nobody has sweepers. Do you think that's a correct thought process here from Jim? Like, I think that's what he's trying to do.
Definitely. I mean, and some of these sort of strategies and individual cards actually gives him some cover against sweepers too. So it's not just like he's done for if someone has it. But yeah, if you want to play an aggro deck and just optimize for turn 4 kills, assuming people can't have a lot of removal, there are a lot of decks that can do it. A lot of colors have access to these kind of tools, especially because it's subsidized by artifacts in some respects, like with cards like Ginger Brute.
Well, Jim's on the battlefield here with Ginger Brutes, plural, the little doggy, a knight, and now a Loxodon, Venerate Loxodon.
Also, if you're approximately as fast as mono red or mono green, but Aether Gust is not a card against you.
That's a
pretty powerful incentive to build a deck like this.
Well, there's Teferi. Yep, bounce that, bozo. So here's always the fun game. And because we're looking at that open decklist tournament too, there's always this fun game of like, okay, so do I kill this Teferi or not? You know, do I care about Shatter the Sky from Michael Hanifan? And Jim might go, you know what? I've got Fight as One in my hand. I've got the dog on the battlefield as well to protect the threat. So I might just ignore your Teferi and just try to kill you, which that makes some sense to me. Well, it looks like he says, you know what? I'm going to kill Teferi. I'll get in here for 8 points of damage. You're at 6. Clock doesn't really change at all. And there's another Selfless Savior. Another Venerable Knight. Well, we might get through this first match pretty darn quickly. Blast Zone the draw. What does that do? That's actually not terrible.
Well, the dog is going to muck it up a little bit.
Yeah, I guess the dog's going to protect his pals, sacrifice some dogs, save some creatures, and then be able to cross the finish line pretty easily. Okay, so, as you know, Patrick, you and I know Jim pretty darn well, obviously. I remember the Players' Championship he won. Took some gambles with deck choice that weekend, huh?
Well,
but it paid off.
These tournaments are really top heavy. I mean, you saw $2,000 for first prize, and that being like multiple times what you get for top 16. Players' Championships we've covered in the past. Invitationals, even Opens, it's the same structure. I think that if you're looking at your long term, like if you're just trying to optimize for in the long term, I want to make the most money, I think you're really well served trying to roll the dice and spike rather than just play like the best deck at an above average level. And yeah, Jim definitely does that.
Yeah, so this is always the question, right? You have to ask yourself is, okay, so do I want to wade in the water? Like, okay, here's the way I look at it. If I'm going to win this tournament, what are the chances I have to beat Autumn in a Team of Reclamation Mirror and how, or someone of that caliber? And do I think I have it in me to do that? And myself personally, you know, unless I'm playing a ton of Magic and I've played a ton with Team of Reclamation, I'm always just kind of like, I don't know if I want to go into that fight. And Jim is obviously trying to sidestep here. And we just went over Autumn's deck list. If you take a look at Autumn's deck and the way their deck was built, look, they don't really have anything going on for Game 1 in this matchup, and not a ton for Game 2 or Game 3 either. And you mentioned the Gust in the sideboard that may live in the main decks and sideboards of Team of Reclamation players. Not good here.
Yeah, what are the anti-white cards that anyone plays? None. No one plays a deck like this. No, I think you really, hit the nail on the head there. You have to distill the conversation down to where am I getting my edge from? And if you look at a tournament like this where the field's really skilled and you feel like I'm not going to have a sizable edge in the Team of Reclamation Mirror, I might actually be behind the average Reclamation player who's played a bunch of the deck, you got to do something else. Like, you're just not going to win the tournament that way. So it's risky, but you got to actually like ask yourself, how do I go about winning this tournament? And sometimes it means playing a deck like mono white.
And one of the things that I've known about Jim, and obviously I think you know as well, is Jim is here to win tournaments. Like Jim is not like, a top 32 would be good or a top 16 would be good. Jim's like, I'll take first or I'll take last. And that's what he's here to do. And obviously with this deck choice, he's basically saying, look, this is what I'm attempting to do. You see his hand here, Selfless Saver. Some other cards we haven't, is that a Bounty Hunter? Like cards we haven't seen in forever are in his hand. But this is how he's going to go try about doing things, and he's up a game. Venerable Knight to kick things off. The very powerful... But I will say this, my friend. As it looks like there's a Glorious Anthem in hand. I know that one pretty well. Ginger Brute and a bunch of other bozos over there. Got to remember one thing. The power level of Jim's deck is much lower than Michael's deck.
Yes, no, you're definitely not winning games on card quality necessarily. So you're making the game about something else.
Yes, that's exactly what's trying to happen here. Is we're definitely making the game about something else. And this is your favorite. I think this is at least one of my favorite forms of card advantage, but also one of yours, which is how many cards does the opponent have in the hand when the game is over? Those are the extra cards that you drew as a player.
Well, Jim was what, +6 at the end of game 1?
At the end of that last one, yeah. He was up a couple cards there.
6 is a lot of cards to be up.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So here is Teferi. Venerable Knights on the battlefield. Jim's hand really needed a third land. Looks like he might be missing that, so he's not able to just kind of unload like he did in the last game, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, Ginger Brute plus Dog is pretty efficient for getting Teferi off the battlefield this turn, advancing his board, and putting him in a spot next turn where drawing a land is good and drawing a spell is good too, because he's got a 2-drop already rolled up.
Well, here's that power level we're talking about. Here comes Nissa, who shakes the world against a bunch of bozos. And unfortunately for Jim, Michael's life total is pretty darn high right now. And I'm not saying a 3-3 is the end-all, be-all, but a 3-3 is actually pretty tough on Jim's battlefield right now. And suffice to say, you can see Michael also has plenty of goodies in Shark Typhoon, Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, and Shatter the Sky. So this is where a deck like Bant Ramp really gets to flex their muscles and say, hey, so game 1, yeah, you crushed me, but I'm on the play game 2. I have Growth Spiral on turn 2. Teferi, bounce your thing. You probably don't want to ignore that, because then you might have to play around Instant Speed Shatter the Sky. And all of a sudden, I've got the most powerful thing on the battlefield. I'm going to have access to double mana next turn. What are you going to do? Play a Healer's Hawk, a Fight is 1? Sure, bud. Go ahead.
And it's not even so much like, can you get the Nissa off of the battlefield? Like, Jim might be able to maneuver the game into a place where he's able to do that, but it requires so much time and attention and resources that you're going to lose to the follow-up card. You just lose the next thing.
Yep.
And Nissa in particular has so much loyalty that it's not trivial to attack through that.
Well, Venerary Loxodon is going to make these little creatures a little bit bigger. 4/4 on the battlefield alongside a couple of 2/2s and that 3/2. But where the advantage comes here for Michael is that, look, he's got access to all of his mana. He can do whatever he wants. Shatter the Sky on this battlefield, that's fine. One could argue actually pretty darn good. You've got the little doggo there to save a creature, but other than that, Shatter the Sky actually looks pretty darn good on this battlefield. And this is an area where Michael gets to do of the very powerful thing of basically doing, okay, so how do I want to maximize my mana over the course of this turn and the following turns? Because I don't think I'm going to lose that Nissa anytime soon.
Or if you are to lose the Nissa, it's going to involve Jim making a bunch of not profitable attacks where you're going to be able to pick off smaller things along the way, which is not a bad consolation prize.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So it looks like we saw an Uro get escape there. Growth Spiral, Shark Typhoon, Shatter the Sky in hand. And yeah, Jim is just building up what I mean, Jim is taking the I want to go wide approach here, right? If he draws a land, he can go towards Unbreakable Formation main phase. He can go towards Glorious Anthem, all that other stuff.
Well, a big thing is also getting enough of his pieces in a position where they at least trade off in combat with lands rather than being trumped.
Yep. So that drawing a land that turn was really important. Seasoned Hallowblade, a new card from Corso 2021. Obviously, incredibly powerful card for aggressive white strategies. But Jim, I think, needed to spike a third land there because then he can just say, you know what, I'll cast Unbreakable Formation and get the beatdowns. He's going to get the beatdowns now anyway, which I love. So here comes the Shark Typhoon. Cyclist Shark, it's a 5/5. Hydra, oh boy. Well, I love this.
Yeah,
this is
and
something.
Is just going to be.
Obviously, I've done.
The blocks here are too probable.
Let's go. I'm going to use the term mediocre here lightly. Aggressive decks in my day, against decks and trying to run down decks that are way more powerful than mine. And this is that to a T right here from Jim.
Yeah, there's a
really
moment here where you have to decide. I'm not going to look at their life total for a little bit here. That's going to be too dispiriting.
Well, your damage is going to come across there. 7 Glass Casket to draw.
Wasn't that bad in the scheme of things. I mean, that was that attack wasn't that bad in the scheme of things. Like,
here comes Nissa, going to activate Breeding Pool.
This is a tough way to get it done, for sure, but Jim's Battlefield's still mostly intact.
Look, I admire the effort. Is all I can say here from Jim. I mean, it's not impossible for him to win this game. I think it's unlikely. It's going to be really, really hard. It's not impossible. I mean, this is a big Hydroid crisis, I'll tell you what. Teferis, plural, picked up a copy of Opt. In there. Land maybe for Jim? Healer's Hawk. Ugh. Can't say that's what the doctor ordered.
It's the problem with playing with Healer's Hawk, right? It's like your draw step. Draw step sometimes.
How dare you? How dare you talk about Healer's Hawk that way?
Nissa threatening
that little fella did some great work for us in Grand Prix Denver a year and a half ago, man.
That was limited. Calculus a little bit different there.
Maybe you're right about that. Maybe you are. No argument here. Ginger Brute. Unblockable? Ever heard of it? Oh, yeah. Okay, so 2 blockers. Yeah, Ginger Brute can be blocked. I guess those lands, does this lands have... They technically have haste, I guess?
They do.
Okay, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and no way for Jimbo to pump. Alright. Let's deploy another Bozo. Healer's Hawk, you're up. Alright. I think the fun might be over now this game, yeah. Teferi, Shadow the Sky, all that stuff.
Well, also, I think something that I like from Hanifan here is got in a shot with a land last turn, and something that Jim also has to play around with all these alpha strikes is making sure he just doesn't die on the way back, and we're approaching the point where that's in range. I mean, a bounce on the Healer's Hawk here, and that's 19 on the table. Don't know about Elspeth Conquers Death.
I was gonna make the same commentary there. Not sure that needs to be in here anymore.
Not sure how I feel about that one.
You think maybe you can let that one go? Perhaps.
Jim's deck not really flush on expensive cards, rares, just anything you can.
How dare you? The way you speak about this deck. I will not stand for it. Do you hear me?
Yeah, my opponent plays Venerated Loxodon on turn 3, and I'm looking at Elspeth Conquers Death, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get the time for this. But whatever, we'll see what game. I'm assuming we're going to get to see what game 3 looks like.
That's a pretty safe assumption. Jim's going to come in here with a bunch of Michael's going to come in here with a bunch of knuckleheads. It's 3-3. One could argue the game is tied. But Uro's going to untie this game here momentarily, it looks like. Might be escaping from the graveyard. But, Patrick, a tale as old as time. You're the aggressive deck against a more powerful deck, and you're on the play for game 3. What more could you ask for?
And you also know that it's not like they have some sideboard card that's going to be lights out. They've got a couple good cards, but you don't have to worry about, a Pyroclasm, a 3-mana sweeper type of thing. That's not part of the equation here. Firing back.
Ah, there it is. The Venerable Knight. And Jim is going to, scoop it up. He's going to wave the white flag and get back to sideboarding here briefly. Again, a conscious decision here from Jim Davis to try to run down these ramp decks and these decks that are trying to gear for beating Team of Reclamation. That's what he's trying to do. And I don't know if you can read about that on SCG Premium. But hey, if he does well, heck, I'll write an article about this mono white aggro deck. You'll see, of course, Patrick Sullivan. That's my broadcasting partner, and Sullivan Satchel, which will be coming later this coming week. Paulo Vitor Domodorosa, your reigning world champion, Emma Handy, Sheldon Menry, Jerry Thompson, and so many more. Star City Games Premium. Become a member for just $7.99 per month to receive instant access to all of our awesome content, as well as a lot of discounts on magical cards, sealed product, all that good stuff. Again, StarCityGames.com. Sign up for a premium membership. Become a member today. That's my hard sell. That's the best you're going to get this morning. I hope. Did that work for you? Did that not work for you?
It worked for me.
Okay.
What do you think? This is the classic control hand game 3. 5 mana on the draw, a sweeper, and a payoff card.
Sweeper ain't gonna do it against this thing.
I know. I think you got to throw that one back.
Right?
Yeah. It's just, I think that's going to be too. Also, Shatter the Sky against, the dog and all the other indestructible cards that Jim has floating around. It's not like Shatter the Sky is an ace, you know what I mean? It's good, it's part of the equation, but I don't think you can bank on that catching you up if that's your first play on the draw on turn 4.
No, I would agree with you. I think Jim's deck has actually demonstrated that he's really good against exactly Shatter the Sky.
Yeah. Yes.
As odd as that may sound. Ginger Brutes! Here's a cookie for you. Beatdowns, thank you very much. 10 already? On turn 3? And is there is the turn 3? Oh boy, that's sad if the turn 3 plays Hydroid Crisis. Aw.
We do it doing that? Are we playing a duel? Aww. Are we playing a dual land on tap to do that?
Oh no, Michael! They're getting run down by the stinkers?
Yeah, I think you had to throw this one back.
Look, it ain't pretty out here. Patrick with a bit of suggestion of perhaps sending this one back to the hand, as that little Hydroid Crisis is. I'm going to tentatively say not exactly what the doctor ordered.
It's not good here. I mean, it's something better than nothing, which is what the opening hand had. But questionable if Shadow of the Sky is going to be enough to play catch up here.
I mean, I'm loving this deck that Jim's playing because it's also just me looking at this and going like, what are some of these cards again? Like, you would think, especially given pedigree here, how much I love a white aggressive strategy in all formats, cube, anything. I mean, fairy guide mother. Been a hot minute since I've seen that one. Gonna make that gonna give that Ginger Brute +2/+1 in flying. Let's go. Right into the red zone. Seasoned Hollow Blade. I will happily. Well, Jim Scott, yeah, I think you can happily discard a card here. Yep. Keep that thing alive.
Still got one left over.
And if I'm Jim, there's no reason to deploy another thing, because the only thing you have to worry about right now is Shatter the Sky. I guess if your opponent deploys Uro, you still have 3, 4, 5, 6. You're like a little short, I think. Okay, so here's Shatter. Obviously, going to discard a card.
Yeah, but you have to beat the best thing, and 2, your opponent's start was so bad that you have to assume they have one of their like marquee cards in hand. So
yeah, if they did nothing nothing relevant up until that point, they obviously have that. So now Jim gets to unload again, right? He gets to play all these things. Selfless Doggy. Here's a Teferi. Teferi ain't gonna cut it. Nissa on this battlefield ain't gonna cut it. I'm trying to think if Teferi bounces something, you peel Glass Casket, you're still dead.
Yeah, I mean, you got to find a way to do 2 things this turn, because all your ways of doing one thing are not good enough.
Yeah, and I don't even think 2 things is good enough either. You bounce the season. Yeah, you got to bounce the Hollow Blade. I think that's the best thing to be bouncing. You draw a card. Yeah, and even if you draw the Casket, you still take 2 from these little bozos. As Jim Davis is gonna cross the finish line. Mono white knuckleheads. Is that sock